Hello, welcome back to Rev Endurance Sports, and today we're going to talk about saddles and the search for the right saddle for you. As some of us, we joke about it, it's kind of like the search for the Holy Grail, but I want to show you a couple of things and maybe that'll make the process a little bit easier for you, but everyone is different, and so the saddle that works for me or works for Johnny and works for Susie may not work for you. But just so you know, there are some saddles that I sell that have been very good throughout, male, female, heavy set, or lightweight, or short, tall, whatever. Okay, anyway, before we get started though, if you would please, if you've been coming onto the channel, you like the content, we talk about all kinds of things here, and I'm also trying a new series of ride videos as well. But if you like the content, please subscribe to the channel, and if you like the video, please smash that like button. Okay, let's get going. So saddles come in so many different shapes and sizes. Now this particular company is called Sella SMP. Sella just means seat, saddle in Italian. And they, to the uninitiated, they may look a little bit weird. I get it. They got this little eagle's beak here. They got this channel. It's actually more than a channel. It's an actual cutout. But this is a very, very well-known saddle company. They make a lot of different saddle shapes. And when you look at these, if I had 3, 4, 5 of these next to each other, then you would notice that sometimes this channel is deeper or wider, or this cutout here is deeper, wider, narrower, more padding, less padding. They even make these in full carbon so that you don't even have any material here. And they make them in different colors as well. So this is a very big saddle, many choices, and so this is a saddle company that I've sold quite well. A lot of people know the Physique line, so they and by the way, so many of these saddle companies have their own gimmick on how you're going to be fit to a saddle, and they have the snake and the bull and all that stuff for the Physique line. But what I'd like to talk to you today is about a saddle company that a lot of people just don't know about. And it's a saddle company I've been using for many years now, and it's called SQ Lab, and they are a German company. And I'll tell you a brief story about how I got connected with these. So one of my vendors, or actually, no, back up. One of my customers / team members, when I first started my team in 2013, he said, "Hey, I'm looking at these saddles and I'm interested in them. Can you find out where you can get them?" So I found the vendor, connected with the vendor. I said, "Hey, send me a couple of saddles. I've got some people that might be interested in them, and of course, I would like to try it." So they sent out the saddles. I think there was like 2 or 3. My training partner, Lori, her saddle was worse for wear. It had just, the top covering was coming off. So we put a saddle on her bike. I put a saddle on my bike. We rode it. We're like, wow, this is actually pretty good. Well, not only was it pretty good, I put it on my tandem on a Thursday, drove out to Death Valley on Friday, and Saturday morning did a 200-miler on that tandem with an SQ Lab saddle that all I had done was ridden around the block. I don't advise you to do this, and as they always say, don't try this at home, but it worked really well. And what they have is a measuring type system. I'm going to go over that here in a minute. And I measured myself, and I looked at the recommendations for the measurements, and I put on a saddle. few months down the road, someone needed to demo the saddle I had on my bike, so I gave that one to them. I put another saddle off the shelf onto my bike. It was one size bigger, and I've never gone back. That saddle was even more comfortable than the recommendation based on their calculations here. So I've been using this saddle. If you don't know my history, I do a lot of ultra distance stuff. On Saturdays, I typically spend 7, 8, 9 hours on the bike. I don't come home with issues from my saddle. I come home tired and beat down from, well, it was like 109 this weekend in Temecula. There's a ride video coming up on that. Anyway, so now let's get to today, what we are doing today. I have a customer who slowly we've been working on getting his bike into a more optimal setup for him. Tubeless, power meter, so on and so forth. And he also complained about his saddle. So if you just look at the difference between the saddle he was riding and the saddle we're going to put on, you can see some vast differences. And that is right here. This, in my opinion, and by the way, I used to ride this saddle for years. This is called the SLR. But this hump here in the middle is exact opposite of what this saddle is designed to do. So you can see it's flatter, it's got a little bit of depression, and this whole perineum area it has a relief so that you don't have this pushing up into your perineum and causing pain, discomfort. So what we did is we did a saddle fitting. Basically, we had the gentleman just sit on, this is just cardboard, and it's thin enough that when the person sits on it, it'll cause an impression. And that impression, then you measure it. And this is what they give you, and they say, okay, find the center of each one of the impressions, put that on there, and go along here and see where it ends up. So in this case, it shows that this particular person measures, let's see, if we put that at 0 and we put that here, we're about 13.5. So you round up to 14. And according to this, if you are a time trialist or triathlete, you don't add any more. If you are someone who rides in the drops, you add 1. If you're someone who rides on the tops, you add 2. If you're a mountain biker and you sit upright predominantly, you would add 3. And if you're a recreational rider, e-bike riding, those kinds of things, then you'd add 4. In this particular case, the sport saddles, the performance saddles, they don't come any bigger than 15. So when we measured him, we did the rounding up, we came up with 14. We came up with someone who rides in the drops, 15. So we went from 13.5 to 14, and then we added 1 to 15. And he demoed this saddle for about 2 weeks, and he says, you know what? I like that saddle, so let's get it. I said, okay. So that's how we ended up with this saddle, based on measuring his sit bone impression. And just briefly, one of the things of the way that this saddle is designed, it creates this pressure-free zone, like just all along here. And as I showed you, this depression here allows that. So you have that, and it keeps the rider much more comfortable. The other thing that they are very, very opinionated about is that you want a nice wide platform for your sit bones, right? So that this would be comfortable, whereas a rounded saddle and a narrow saddle will cause pain there. And doesn't this image look like what this is, right? So that's what they're trying to do there. And as I mentioned here, this pressure-free zone, when you're sitting on the bike, if you're sitting naturally, it provides this nice pressure-free zone here, whereas here that would cause you a lot of discomfort. Now, this saddle I have sold, or this saddle company, and this particular saddle model, 13, 14, and 15, I've sold this saddle to male, female riders, short, tall, heavy set, lightweight, all kinds of riders, all shapes and sizes, all ages as well. I've sold this saddle more than any of the other saddles I sell here. Sella Italia, Sella S&P, Physique. God, I can't even list them all, but I sell a lot of different saddle companies. But I've sold this saddle more than any other saddle to customers all around. Not just here in the store, but I've shipped them to many places around the country. Not around the world, but around the country. But the next step that we're going to do is create a video where we do a saddle installation. All right, so that's step 2. I can't